Earlier this week, after I had posted the Samurai Shin, Palace of the Dead, and by extension, all deep dungeons are heists. Think about it. Either alone or with the crew, you all go into a heavily guarded area with the goal of reaching its deepest and most valuable areas while collecting whatever loot you can along the way in hopes of making it out with the big score. With that in mind, Palace of the Dead tends to reward risk takers and the thoroughly prepared. Hello, I'm Itty Bitty Tivy, and I'm on a journey to max every combat, crafting, gathering, and limited job in Final Fantasy XIV. This is not a difficult thing to do, but it is time consuming. This will be the second video in my attempt to level up and make it to floor 200 of Palace of the Dead, to join the ranks of the few who call themselves Necromancer. To begin, we should make a plan, and what better way to start than by seeing where we failed in the first place. On floor 103, while playing a samurai, I was fighting an earth sprite when we were jumped by a filthy goblin. But where did it come from? Well, if we look back on the tapes, we can see that while our focus was on a goblin walking through the room, there was a second one heading right in our direction that we did not see. This mistake could have been avoided if we followed our ABPs. Always be Puma checking. Puma checking, of course, coming from the Noobtown Lit RPG series. With that to start, let's begin our next foray, this time as a machinist. Now, I know that some of you will be thinking, but TV, isn't machinist the best job for Palace of the Dead, making it too easy? And for that, I say to you, well, if you want to punish yourself, then go to Palace of the Dead on Astrologian, but I want the Necromancer title. Now, a plan with only one step does not make a plan, so what else can we do? Well, look no further than floor 21. While attempting to open a bronze chest, I am attacked by a mimic and defeated. This can give us a second rule for the plan. Don't get greedy, and if you do, be able to back it up. And finally, what's the most important part of a heist? Preparation. Kinda like when I got to floor 30 and wiped to the boss because I did not put life-sustaining potions on my hotbar like an idiot. With all the kinks worked out, we got a plan. 1. Always be Puma checking. 2. Be as greedy as you can back it up. And 3. Potions. With potions on hotbar, now we can get to the bottom. Now I won't bore you with the details, but I will talk about how good the plan is. On floor 25, step 1 came into play as it would seem that the Minotaur family reunion was happening, and they were all having a hard time finding the bathroom. Well, with step 1, we were able to Puma check each Minotaur and lure each one somewhere safe for a butchering. At many points, we were able to find overflow pomanders of both flight and rage, allowing us to quickly clear floors. On floor 79, our greed almost cost us while on the way to a chest we tripped a luring trap. But with the kiting afforded by the machinist class and our potions on the hotbar, we are able to overcome this obstacle. On floor 99, I was trying to sneak past a gourmand while targeting a dragon. Gourmands detect you by proximity, so after being attacked, in a panic, I also attacked the dragon, which caused a way scarier fight than I wanted. I was level-headed enough to use a witching pomander to reduce their threat level while I dealt with them, but this was a mistake that didn't need to happen. So fourth rule, don't target things until you are ready to attack. Finally, I'm back on floor 101 and beyond. My main goal here is simple. Find the goblin that killed me and get revenge. And then I saw it. On the floor where I left it too. Goblin Adventurer. With my Puma check complete, it was time. The goblin had seen me, and it tried to escape. But I wouldn't let it. I sprinted for it, training my machinist weapon on its back and fired. The goblin wasted no time fighting back, and while it put up a good fight, I had been dreaming of this day for a week. There was nothing it could do. There would be no surprises to save it. There were a few other goblins as I continued my way down, but they weren't threats. Not anymore. Moving on, I noticed that as I was fighting the floor 110 boss that I had spent more time on this floor set than any other. Knowing that the deep dungeon would only get more difficult, I made a mental note to be as swift as possible from here on out. It would be a waste to fail a run on a timeout. On floor 113, while fighting some pudding, I see that the damage being done is getting out of hand. I have a decent stock of sustaining potions, but with more than 85 floors to go, I could need to make a secondary run to farm potsherds. On floor 124, a Puma check reveals an old friend, the Minotaur. It would seem that down here is where the stronger, cooler family reunion is held. Still can't find a bathroom though. I spent a lot of time attacking certain enemies with hesitation. After all, on the non-challenge floors, these enemies are lowered level but still a fair bit higher level than you are at the start. The memories of almost dying to turtles is strong, while here I can easily hold my own. Something I want to talk about is the accursed horde. On the lower of 100 floors, the Accursed Horde is really only there to be achievement farmed. There are achievements for getting 10,000 Accursed Horde items, as well as a few achievements for getting 100 without using the Pomanders. The reason I bring this up is because starting from floor 101, the items you get from the Accursed Horde are very valuable and may make you think that unnecessary risks are worth it. They are not. Do not be greedy. Remember Rule 2. After turning a corner on floor 146, I see something that makes my heart feel heavy. A treasure room. I cannot ignore this room because the teleporter to the next floor is in this room, so the only thing I can do is pull one mob at a time until the teleporter opens up and I can sneak into it. The gloom on this floor does not make this an easier task. I clear out enough enemies to check the nearest coffer and am offered an olive branch of a Serenity Pomander. This removes the gloom along with the enemy buffs it provides, as well as a chunk of my anxiety. On floor 147, the dungeon spits in my face and laughs at my pain. I open a chest to find a mimic. This isn't a problem because at this time I've become quite used to dealing with them, but the disrespect comes when a palace persona spawns in the middle of the fight. The persona is aggroed by proximity, and I am forced to use some of my panic pomanders to be able to deal with this threat. The deep dungeon must love jokes because on floor 148 I am forced to deal with another treasure room, this one containing a piece of the Accursed Horde. Remembering Rule 2, I make the decision to clear out the room if only enough to get the treasure, and in the process open the way forward. I fail a Puma check after opening another Mimic, and getting attacked by a Succubus. Luckily, the Mimic is mostly done by the time the Succubus enters the scene. The fight with Tisiphone on floor 150 is the most stressful yet. The adds she summons can be a major distraction while also maintaining damage and health regen, but after a couple minutes of stress I settle into a groove and make it to the final 50. One of the Accursed Horde even drops this edit doll that I can use to furnish my house with. The first thing I see as I enter 151 is a shifting wall and floor, almost as if it was snowing and I am thrown off, unable to feel calm. I also see that there aren't really any walls, which excites me since I might be able to kite without worrying about losing line of sight. But if I get that advantage, then so do the enemies. At least it should make seeing split paths easier. I am fighting enemies only one at a time, and each enemy hits like a truck with a mission to take me out. I am spamming my potions and self-healing, which makes me glad I looted each bronze chest ever since floor 50 for additional potsherds. Kiting has become the absolute necessity, as if I can get an enemy that has no ranged abilities, I can reduce the amount of damage taken as well as reducing my potion use. These final floors will be a test of how good I can get at avoiding hits. Landmines in the deep dungeon have always been dangerous, but on these lower floors a landmine becomes a death sentence since just about any given attack can do at least 20% of my HP. Understanding each enemy's aggro type will be vital moving forward, since each enemy takes a fair amount of time to kill and each floor is taking anywhere from 5 to 8 minutes, being able to avoid enemies to get to the next floor is more important than ever. By floor 154, my main strategy has been to attack an enemy nearest the safe starting room, pull them to the safe room and kite them until they die. Then repeat this until all the enemies are gone. I appreciate patrolling enemies now more than ever. When all are defeated, I will hug a wall and try to get to the next room. I will then pull an enemy, then follow the exact path back to the safe room. This is costing me time since I am typically very far from enemies when I finish the kill. On floor 155, I attack an imp. This was a mistake. The imp casts ice magic that causes a debuff that also hurts you when you use certain abilities or even auto attack. I won the fight, but I came extremely close to failing this run. On floor 158 had a treasure room. To my absolute misfortune, the passageway was in the mess. With 26 minutes on the clock, I got to work since I wanted to take on the boss with at least 12 minutes remaining. I pulled one after another until there was only site-based monsters and I went for the passage. My greed had me open the nearby chest and I had to deal with a last-second mimic. Floor 159 also had a treasure room. This time, however, the dungeon took pity on me and allowed me the passage room before the treasure room. I still had to deal with a couple dangerous mobs, but after carefully pulling the mobs, I got to go to the boss with 12 minutes remaining just as I was after. Floor 164 had something that shook me to my bones, a no items debuff. Now I gave it one good shot, but after finding a mimic in the starting area, I immediately popped a Serenity to remove the debuff and witched the mimic when a Vine Ragoon showed up. I did not do my Puma check. I found that in these last 50 floors, the most important thing I can do is to find the Cairn of Passage ASAP. If I know where I'm going, then I can clear out that room, and then if I need to, I can clear out more. Guess what I found on floor 165? Another treasure room. I swear, each time I find one of these, my soul gets a little closer to that mountain farm in the sky. The boss on floor 170 was the scariest yet. With its douse that leaves water puddles, it gets buffed to do more damage, and at the start, I did a bad job of kiting it. Once I learned the pattern it does before it drops its douse, the fight got a little more manageable, but it was still pretty close. That fight got my adrenaline pumping, so I thought it would be a good idea to take a small break. So I visited some Moogles before heading back into the deep. The first thing I saw on floor 171 was a treasure room. Again, I was lucky that it wasn't in the way, so I could just use it to take out enemies for the passage, but I was getting real sick of seeing them. It was on floor 175 that I saw not one, but two things that gave me pause. First, gloom. Second, a gorilla. The gloom could be managed, but the gorilla was a real threat. I knew that they had a buff that can one-shot me even with steel up, so timing was everything. I managed to kill not just that gorilla, but a couple others on this floor, but time was really beginning to become a concern. Floor 176 had the actual biggest threat so far this run, an Anzu. Anzus are both extremely powerful and dangerous. They have an attack that stuns and causes a vulnerability debuff, making taking one on a death sentence, so I avoided it like the run depended on it. Entering floor 177, there was an Anzu right in the next room. I would end up spending way too much time waiting for it to turn around just so I could go sneak by and pull something else. At least the passageway was close by. Floor 178 held another treasure room. I popped a sight pomander to see where the exit was, and to my horror, I would need to cross the treasure room. With time quickly running out, I decided to pull the most dangerous things, then use a rage to carefully handle the rest.
Fuck.
Yep, in my haste, I mistimed the attack on the gorilla, it buffed, and my run came to an end. This run was great. I got a bunch of stuff to sell for a good amount of gil, and I learned so much about this content that I know I can do even better next time, RNG willing. Machinist leveled up to 58 and will probably go higher because after seeing how important kiting is, I might as well keep up with that. With Dawn Trail coming out next week, I'm not sure I'll be able to finish a run, but I do have some other things ready to be edited, so there will still be a new video. If you made it to the end of the video, please leave a like. If there are things you think I could do better, leave a comment. If you want to know how the next run goes, then please subscribe. Anything you do really helps the channel. With that, I'll see you all in the next one.